Hashtag the desert's silent guardian, the Afghan sun beat down mercilessly on the rocky terrain as Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison adjusted his tactical scope for the third time in 5 minutes. His team of 8 Navy SEALs had been moving through the mountainous region for over 6 hours, tracking a high-value target whose capture could shift the entire dynamics of their ongoing operation. Intelligence suggested that Ahmed Qasim, a Taliban commander responsible for coordinating attacks on coalition forces, was holed up in a compound just 2 clicks ahead. Morrison's weathered face showed the strain of countless missions, but his green eyes remained sharp and focused. At 34, he had led more successful operations than most officers twice his age. His team trusted him implicitly, knowing that his decisions had brought them home safely from some of the most dangerous missions in the region. Today felt different, though. Something in the air seemed heavier, more charged with potential danger. Petty Officer First Class Carlos Martinez moved silently beside him, his radio equipment perfectly positioned for instant communication. Martinez had served under Morrison for 3 years, and their partnership had become legendary within their unit. Behind them, the rest of the team maintained perfect formation. Rodriguez with his medical kit, Thompson carrying additional ammunition, Williams handling explosive ordnance, Peterson managing communications backup, Hayes serving as their designated marksman, and Kumar providing rear security. The terrain ahead presented significant challenges. Rocky outcroppings provided excellent cover for defenders, while the sparse vegetation offered little concealment for attacking forces. Morrison studied the compound through his binoculars, noting the strategic positioning of guard posts and the clear fields of fire that any defenders would enjoy. The intelligence reports had been accurate about the location, but something felt incomplete about the picture they were getting. As they approached the final ridge before their target, Morrison's instincts began sending warning signals. The compound appeared too quiet, too perfectly positioned. His years of experience had taught him to trust these feelings, even when logic suggested otherwise. He raised his closed fist, bringing the entire team to an immediate halt. The silence that followed was broken only by the distant sound of wind moving through the rocky landscape. Through his scope, Morrison observed the compound more carefully. 2 guards were visible, but their positioning seemed almost casual, lacking the alertness he would expect from Taliban fighters in a contested area. The main building showed signs of recent activity, with fresh tire tracks leading to and from the structure. However, something about the scene troubled him deeply. Martinez crawled forward until he was positioned directly beside his commander. Without speaking, he understood that Morrison was processing multiple variables, weighing risks and opportunities with a methodical precision that had kept their team alive through dozens of dangerous missions. The rest of the team remained frozen in position, each man focused on his assigned sector while awaiting orders. The compound below contained multiple buildings arranged in a defensive pattern around a central courtyard. High walls surrounded the entire complex, with only one visible entrance that appeared heavily fortified. Morrison noted the placement of what looked like improvised explosive devices near the main gate, their positioning suggesting a level of preparation that went beyond standard defensive measures. What concerned Morrison most was the absence of normal activity patterns. No women or children were visible, no animals moved through the compound, and even the guards seemed to be following predetermined routes rather than conducting genuine security patrols. His experience told him that authentic compounds always showed signs of daily life, even in combat zones. As he continued his observation, Morrison began to suspect that the compound might be serving as more than just a hiding place for Qasim. The strategic positioning, the careful defensive preparations, and the unusual quiet all suggested that this location might be functioning as a staging area for a larger operation. If his suspicions were correct, capturing Qasim here could provide intelligence that would save countless lives. Martinez received a priority message through his earpiece and immediately passed it to Morrison through hand signals. Command had confirmed that satellite imagery showed increased activity in the area over the past 48 hours, with multiple vehicles arriving during darkness and leaving before dawn. This pattern suggested that the compound was indeed serving as a planning center for future operations. Morrison made his decision with the confidence that had earned him the respect of his superiors and the loyalty of his men. They would proceed with the mission, but with enhanced caution and modified approach tactics. He signaled for his team to move to predetermined positions for the assault, knowing that each man understood his role perfectly. Hayes, their designated marksman, moved to an elevated position that would provide overwatch during the assault. His rifle was capable of precise shots at distances exceeding 800 meters, and his skill had proven decisive in previous operations. Peterson and Kumar established a communications post that would maintain contact with headquarters throughout the mission. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Williams would create a diversion at the main gate using controlled explosives, drawing defenders toward the primary entrance. Meanwhile, Morrison would lead Thompson, Rodriguez, and Martinez through a breach point they had identified on the eastern wall. Hayes would provide covering fire for both teams, while Peterson maintained communications and Kumar watched for enemy reinforcements. As they prepared to execute their plan, Morrison felt the familiar surge of adrenaline that preceded every assault. His mind became sharper, his senses more acute, and his awareness of his team's positioning reached an almost supernatural level. This heightened state had saved his life numerous times, and he trusted it completely. The team moved into position with practiced efficiency. Years of training and real-world experience had created an almost telepathic connection between these men. They communicated through subtle gestures and shared understanding, each anticipating the other's needs and reactions. Morrison felt proud of what they had accomplished together, knowing that few units in any military could match their level of coordination. Williams reached the main gate and began preparing his explosive charges while the assault team moved toward their breach point. Hayes settled into his overwatch position, his rifle trained on the guard posts within the compound. Everything was proceeding according to plan, but Morrison continued to feel that nagging sense that something important was being overlooked. The explosion at the main gate shattered the afternoon quiet with devastating effectiveness. Williams had perfectly calculated the charge to create maximum distraction while avoiding structural damage that might harm potential intelligence materials within the compound. As expected, the visible guards immediately moved toward the commotion, shouting orders and preparing defensive positions. Morrison led his team through their breach point with swift precision. The eastern wall had been constructed with local materials and proved vulnerable to their breaching charges. Within seconds, they were inside the compound perimeter, moving toward their primary objectives while maintaining perfect tactical formation. The interior of the compound revealed additional defensive preparations that had not been visible from their observation point. Sandbag positions had been constructed at strategic locations, suggesting that the defenders had been expecting some form of assault. Morrison noted these details while continuing to advance, filing the information for later analysis. As they approached the main building, the tactical situation suddenly changed in ways that none of their planning had anticipated. Additional defenders appeared from concealed positions, their weapons trained on Morrison's team with deadly precision. The number of enemy combatants was significantly higher than intelligence estimates had suggested, and their positioning indicated extensive preparation for exactly this type of assault. Hayes immediately engaged targets from his overwatch position, his rifle providing critical support as Morrison's team found themselves under intense fire from multiple directions. The carefully planned mission was rapidly evolving into a desperate firefight, with the SEALs facing odds that challenged even their exceptional training and experience. Morrison's mind raced through tactical options while his body moved with practiced efficiency, seeking cover and returning fire. His team responded with professional calm, each man executing his training while adapting to the rapidly changing situation. Rodriguez moved to treat Thompson, who had taken a round in his shoulder, while Martinez coordinated with Peterson to call for backup support. The compound that had appeared so quiet and manageable from a distance had transformed into a deadly maze of defensive positions and concealed threats. Morrison realized that they had walked into a carefully prepared trap, one that suggested their mission had been compromised from the beginning. The implications were staggering, but survival took priority over analysis. As bullets sparked off the rocky surfaces around them and the tactical situation continued to deteriorate, Morrison knew that his team was facing one of their greatest challenges. Their training, experience, and mutual trust would be tested to the absolute limit. What none of them could know was that their desperate call for help was about to be answered by someone whose very existence remained classified at the highest levels. The afternoon sun continued its merciless assault on the Afghan landscape as 8 of America's finest warriors found themselves fighting for their lives against overwhelming odds, unaware that a guardian angel was already moving into position to alter the course of their battle in ways that would never appear in any official report. Hashtag the ghost in the mountains 2 kilometers away from the firefight consuming Morrison's team. Master Sergeant Elena Vasquez lay motionless behind a carefully constructed hide site that had taken her 4 hours to prepare. Her position commanded a perfect view of the compound below, and her customized rifle was capable of precision shots that defied conventional understanding. What made Elena unique was not just her exceptional marksmanship, but her complete invisibility to both enemy forces and friendly units operating in the region. Elena belonged to a program so classified that its existence was known only to a handful of individuals within the highest levels of military intelligence. Officially, she did not exist. Her records had been erased, her family believed she had died in a training accident, and her very presence in Afghanistan was authorized by presidential directive. She was part of an experimental unit designed to provide overwatch and elimination services for operations requiring absolute deniability. Her current mission had begun 3 days earlier when intercepted communications suggested that a major Taliban operation was being planned in this specific region. Elena had been deployed to gather intelligence and eliminate high-value targets of opportunity, working completely independently from any other military units in the area. She had no knowledge of Morrison's team or their mission, and they had no knowledge of her existence. The rifle resting beside Elena was a masterpiece of modern engineering, customized specifically for her unique requirements. Its effective range exceeded any conventional sniper rifle, and its sound suppression system rendered it virtually silent at distances beyond 200 meters. Each round had been hand-loaded to her precise specifications, ensuring accuracy that bordered on the supernatural. Years of training and combat experience had transformed Elena into a weapon as precise and deadly as the rifle she carried. Elena had been observing the compound since dawn, noting patterns of activity and identifying potential targets. Her trained eyes had cataloged defensive positions, guard rotations, and structural vulnerabilities with methodical precision. She had identified Qasim through photographic recognition during his brief appearance in the courtyard earlier that morning, confirming that the intelligence reports were accurate about his presence. When the explosion at the main gate announced the beginning of Morrison's assault, Elena experienced a moment of genuine surprise. Her briefings had made no mention of other operations in the area, and the presence of additional forces created complications she had not anticipated. Through her scope, she watched the tactical situation develop with professional interest, noting the skill and coordination of the attacking team. Elena's training had emphasized adaptability above all other considerations. Situations changed rapidly in combat environments, and survival depended on the ability to modify plans instantly based on new information. As she observed the firefight developing below, she began calculating how the presence of additional forces might affect her own mission parameters. The tactical situation deteriorated rapidly as Morrison's team found themselves outnumbered and outgunned. Elena watched through her scope as professional soldiers executed their training under impossible circumstances, their movements revealing years of experience and exceptional skill. Despite her emotional detachment, she felt a grudging respect for their performance under pressure. Through her communications equipment, Elena monitored multiple frequency ranges, gathering intelligence about both the ongoing firefight and the broader tactical situation. She learned that the attacking team was composed of Navy SEALs conducting a high-priority capture mission, and that their situation was becoming increasingly desperate as enemy reinforcements continued to arrive. Elena's mission parameters did not include providing support for other military units, and Her standing orders emphasized maintaining operational security above all other considerations. Revealing her position or capabilities could compromise future operations and endanger other personnel operating under similar classifications. However, the tactical situation below was evolving in ways that might affect her own mission's success. From her elevated position, Elena could see tactical details that were invisible to the forces engaged in the firefight. Enemy reinforcements were moving through concealed routes toward the compound, their numbers suggesting that Morrison's team would soon be completely surrounded. Additionally, she observed preparations for what appeared to be a coordinated counterattack designed to eliminate the SEAL team entirely. Elena's mind processed multiple variables with computational precision. Her own mission could be compromised if the SEAL team was captured or killed, as their presence would inevitably lead to increased security throughout the region. Additionally, their communications equipment might be recovered and analyzed, potentially revealing intelligence capabilities that could affect future operations. More immediately, Elena realized that Qasim was preparing to escape through a route that would take him beyond her engagement range. The Taliban commander had waited for the assault to develop before making his move, demonstrating tactical awareness that explained his survival in a region where coalition forces had eliminated most of his peers. If he escaped, Elena's primary mission would fail completely. The mathematical precision that governed Elena's decision-making process led to a conclusion that surprised even her. The most effective way to complete her mission while protecting broader operational security required limited intervention in the ongoing firefight. However, this intervention would need to be executed in such a way that her presence remained completely undetectable. Elena began adjusting her position and equipment with movements so subtle that they would have been invisible to observers' position just meters away. Her hide sight had been constructed to provide multiple firing positions while maintaining perfect concealment, and her preparation now proved invaluable. Within minutes, she had repositioned herself and her rifle for optimal engagement of targets throughout the compound. Through her scope, Elena identified the enemy commander coordinating the defense against Morrison's team. Eliminating this individual would disrupt enemy coordination and provide the SEALs with opportunities to improve their tactical position. More importantly, the commander's death would create confusion that might allow Elena to engage Qasim before he could complete his escape. Elena's first shot was calculated to appear completely random, a lucky hit from one of the SEAL team members rather than precision fire from an external source. She selected a target whose elimination would provide maximum tactical advantage while maintaining plausible deniability. The enemy fighter fell instantly, his death attributed by his comrades to Hayes' marksmanship from his overwatch position. The psychological effect was immediate and dramatic. Enemy forces, believing themselves to be facing an exceptionally skilled marksman within the SEAL team, began taking additional cover and modifying their assault patterns. This disruption provided Morrison's team with critical breathing room and allowed them to consolidate their defensive positions. Elena's second shot eliminated a machine gun position that had been providing devastating fire against the SEAL team's eastern flank. Again, the shot was carefully calculated to appear as though it had originated from Hayes' position, maintaining the illusion that the SEALs were receiving no external assistance. The elimination of the machine gun position allowed Morrison to reposition his team for better defensive coverage. Through her communications monitoring, Elena heard Morrison's team calling for emergency extraction while continuing to engage enemy forces with professional determination. Their ammunition supplies were running low, and Thompson's wound was affecting the team's overall capabilities. Elena realized that her limited intervention was providing only temporary relief, and that more decisive action would be required. Elena's training had prepared her for situations requiring rapid target engagement across multiple ranges and elevations. Her rifle could be reconfigured for different tactical requirements within seconds, and her ammunition selection provided options for various engagement scenarios. As she prepared for more aggressive intervention, she calculated the risks and benefits with mathematical precision. The appearance of additional enemy reinforcements convinced Elena that half measures would be insufficient. If Morrison's team was eliminated, their equipment and intelligence would be recovered by enemy forces, potentially compromising operations throughout the region. Additionally, Kasim was moving closer to his escape route with each passing minute. Elena made a decision that would have been impossible for conventional snipers. She began engaging multiple targets in rapid succession, using advanced techniques that created the illusion of fire from several different positions. Her shots were timed to coincide with explosions and other noise sources, making it impossible for enemy forces to determine their origin point. The effect on enemy morale was devastating. Faced with what appeared to be precision fire from multiple hidden positions, Taliban fighters began abandoning their assault on the SEAL team and seeking cover from invisible threats. Their coordinated attack dissolved into confused defensive reactions as fighters struggled to understand the source of their mounting casualties. Morrison, observing the sudden change in enemy behavior, recognized that something extraordinary was happening. His team was receiving support from an unknown source, and this assistance was proving decisive in turning the tactical situation in their favor. However, his training emphasized maintaining operational focus regardless of changing circumstances. Elena's interventions had achieved their primary objectives. Morrison's team was no longer in immediate danger of being overrun, and Kasim's escape route was now blocked by the confusion and casualties among his forces. However, Elena recognized that her continued involvement was creating risks that might compromise her long-term mission effectiveness. As the afternoon progressed, and the tactical situation continued to evolve, Elena prepared for the final phase of her intervention. Kasim was still alive and within her engagement range, but capturing him alive remained the SEAL team's primary objective. Elena would need to coordinate her actions carefully to support their mission while maintaining her operational invisibility. The Desert Sun beat down on two separate battles being fought simultaneously. The visible firefight between Morrison's SEALs and Taliban forces, and the invisible war being waged by a ghost who existed only in classified documents. Both battles would determine the fate of critical operations, but only one would ever be acknowledged in official reports. Elena checked her equipment one final time, knowing that the next few minutes would test every aspect of her training and determine whether her unprecedented intervention would remain forever secret. The mountains held many secrets, but none more closely guarded than the existence of operators like Elena Vasquez. #The Invisible Hand. Morrison felt the shift in the battle before he understood its cause. Enemy fire that had been devastating and coordinated just minutes earlier suddenly became sporadic and poorly aimed. Taliban fighters who had been advancing with tactical precision were now scrambling for cover, their confident assault dissolving into defensive confusion. Through the chaos, Morrison heard panicked voices speaking Pashto, their tones suggesting fear of threats they could not identify or understand. Hayes, positioned at his overwatch point, was equally puzzled by the dramatic change in circumstances. Through his scope, he witnessed enemy fighters falling to precision shots that exceeded even his considerable capabilities. The angles and timing of these eliminations suggested the presence of another marksman, one positioned at impossible range and elevation. Hayes was among the finest snipers in the Navy, but he recognized marksmanship that transcended conventional understanding. Rodriguez worked frantically to stabilize Thompson's wound while the tactical situation continued to evolve around them. The shoulder injury was serious, but not life-threatening, provided they could reach proper medical facilities within reasonable time. The sudden reduction in enemy pressure allowed Rodriguez to focus entirely on medical procedures rather than dividing his attention between treatment and defensive fire. Martinez monitored communications traffic with growing amazement as he recognized that their desperate situation was somehow being resolved by forces unknown to any official channels. His equipment detected no friendly units in the area, no air support operations, and no artillery fire that could account for the devastating effects on enemy positions. The rescue appeared to be materializing from thin air. Elena continued her systematic elimination of priority targets while maintaining perfect concealment from both friend and foe. Her calculations had evolved beyond simple target engagement to complex orchestration of an entire battlefield. Each shot was timed and positioned to create maximum tactical advantage for Morrison's team, while reinforcing the illusion that their improved situation resulted from their own exceptional skills. The compound below had transformed into a maze of confusion and casualties as Elena's interventions shattered enemy coordination. Taliban fighters who had been supremely confident in their prepared positions now found themselves facing threats they could neither locate nor understand. Their careful defensive plans dissolved as precision fire eliminated key personnel from impossible angles and distances. Qasim remained Elena's primary target, but the Taliban commander had demonstrated survival instincts that explained his continued existence in a region where coalition forces had eliminated most of his peers. He moved constantly between covered positions, never remaining exposed long enough for conventional engagement. Elena recognized that capturing him would require creating opportunities that did not currently exist. Through her scope, Elena observed Morrison's team beginning to capitalize on their improved tactical situation. These professionals understood that battlefield conditions could change rapidly and unpredictably, and they adapted to new circumstances with the flexibility that marked elite units. Morrison was repositioning his team for assault operations, recognizing that the initiative had somehow shifted in their favor. Elena faced a critical decision regarding the extent of her intervention. Her mission parameters emphasized maintaining operational security above all other considerations, but the tactical situation continued to evolve in ways that required constant reevaluation. Supporting Morrison's assault on the compound would provide optimal opportunities for completing her own objectives, but it would also increase the risk of detection. The sound of rotors in the distance announced the approach of additional forces, though Elena's monitoring equipment suggested these were enemy reinforcements rather than friendly support. Through her scope, she observed Taliban fighters preparing landing zones for incoming helicopters, their coordination suggesting that Morrison's team would soon face overwhelming odds regardless of her interventions. Elena's training had prepared her for situations requiring rapid escalation of engagement parameters. Her equipment included specialized ammunition designed for anti-vehicle operations, and her position provided optimal angles for engaging aircraft during landing approaches. However, such interventions would create evidence that might compromise future operations requiring similar capabilities. Morrison heard the approaching helicopters and recognized that their tactical situation was about to deteriorate dramatically. His team had improved their position significantly, but they remained outnumbered and would soon face additional enemy forces. The mysterious support they had been receiving would prove insufficient against helicopter-delivered reinforcements equipped with heavy weapons. Elena made calculations that would have been impossible for conventional snipers. Her specialized ammunition could disable helicopter engines at extreme range, but such shots would create evidence of capabilities that were supposed to remain classified. However, allowing Morrison's team to be overrun by reinforcements would compromise her own mission and potentially expose intelligence sources throughout the region. The first helicopter appeared over the ridge line, its pilot maintaining low altitude to avoid detection by coalition forces operating in adjacent areas. Elena tracked its approach with mechanical precision, calculating wind speed, rotor wash effects, and optimal engagement angles. Her finger found the trigger as she prepared for a shot that would alter the entire tactical situation. Elena's round struck the helicopter's engine compartment with devastating precision, causing catastrophic failure that sent the aircraft spiraling toward the ground in a mass of twisted metal and flame. The explosion created confusion among Taliban ground forces while eliminating half of their expected reinforcements. More importantly, the crash provided Morrison's team with additional cover and concealment opportunities. The second helicopter, observing the fate of its companion, attempted to abort its landing approach while maintaining suppressive fire on suspected enemy positions. Elena's second anti-aircraft shot disabled its tail rotor, causing the pilot to lose control and crash into the compound's eastern wall. The resulting explosion eliminated several enemy fighting positions while creating a breach that Morrison's team could exploit. Morrison recognized that extraordinary circumstances were creating unprecedented opportunities for mission success. His team had called for help, and that help had arrived in forms that defied conventional understanding. Professional soldiers learned to accept such situations without excessive analysis, focusing instead on exploiting tactical advantages regardless of their origin. Elena observed Morrison's team preparing to assault the main compound building where Qasim was believed to be located. Her interventions had created optimal conditions for their success, but the Taliban commander remained dangerous and resourceful. Elena positioned herself to provide precise Overwatch support during the final phase of their operation. Hayes coordinated with Morrison as the team prepared to breach the main building. Their improved tactical situation allowed for aggressive assault procedures that would have been suicidal just minutes earlier. Hayes provided covering fire while Morrison led Rodriguez, Martinez, and Williams through the breach point created by the helicopter crash. The interior of the compound building revealed extensive defensive preparations, including reinforced positions and concealed fighting positions. However, the psychological impact of the devastating attacks on their forces had broken enemy morale to such an extent that resistance was minimal and poorly coordinated. Morrison's team moved through the structure with practiced efficiency. Elena maintained overwatch on the building's exterior while monitoring escape routes that Qasim might attempt to use. Through her scope, she observed Taliban fighters abandoning defensive positions and fleeing toward predetermined extraction points. Their organized withdrawal suggested that the operation had been planned with multiple contingency scenarios, indicating sophisticated planning capabilities. Qasim's capture occurred with anticlimactic efficiency as Morrison's team located him in a concealed basement bunker equipped with communications equipment and extensive documentation. The Taliban commander surrendered without resistance when confronted by heavily armed SEALs whose reputation for professionalism was known throughout the region. His capture represented a significant intelligence victory that would affect operations throughout Afghanistan. Elena observed the successful conclusion of Morrison's mission while preparing to complete her own objectives. The compound contained intelligence materials that would require careful analysis, and several high-value targets remained at large in the surrounding area. Her continued presence would be necessary to complete the full scope of her classified mission. As Morrison's team prepared Qasim for extraction while securing captured intelligence materials, they remained unaware that their success had been enabled by capabilities that officially did not exist. Elena's interventions had been so precisely calculated that even these experienced professionals attributed their survival to skill, determination, and favorable circumstances rather than external assistance. The afternoon sun continued its descent toward the Afghan horizon as two separate missions achieved successful conclusions. Morrison's team had accomplished their objectives through exceptional skill and teamwork, while Elena had completed the most challenging engagement of her career without revealing her existence to either friend or foe. Elena began the careful process of removing all evidence of her presence, while monitoring communications traffic for indications that her interventions had been detected or analyzed. Her hide site would be completely sanitized, leaving no trace that anyone had ever occupied the position. By morning, even the most detailed forensic analysis would find nothing to suggest that the battle had been influenced by external forces. As she prepared to exfiltrate from the area through routes known only to her, Elena reflected on the unprecedented nature of her mission. Never before had she provided direct support to friendly forces, and the psychological impact of saving American lives added unexpected emotional complexity to her otherwise mechanical approach to operations. Morrison's team called for extraction while securing their prisoner and capture materials. Their mission report would describe exceptional marksmanship, tactical flexibility, and determination under fire. No mention would be made of impossible shots from unknown positions or the systematic elimination of enemy forces by invisible marksmen. Elena disappeared into the Afghan landscape as silently as she had arrived, leaving behind only the results of her intervention. The official record would show that 8 Navy SEALs had overcome overwhelming odds through skill and determination, capturing a high-value target despite facing superior numbers and prepared defensive positions. The truth would remain classified at levels that ensured it would never be revealed, protecting both Elena's identity and the existence of the program that had created her. In the mountains of Afghanistan, some secrets were more closely guarded than others. #Shadows and revelations 3 hours after the successful completion of their mission, Morrison's team reached their extraction point, a secure landing zone established in a valley 12 kilometers from the compound. The captured intelligence materials filled 2 complete storage cases, while Qasim remained under heavy guard. His capture representing one of the most significant victories against Taliban leadership in recent months. Despite their success, Morrison found himself troubled by questions that had no satisfactory answers. The helicopter that arrived for their extraction carried medical personnel who immediately began treating Thompson's wound with professional efficiency. His injury, while serious, would heal completely with proper care and rehabilitation. More troubling to the medical team were the psychological effects they observed in several team members, men who seemed unable to fully process what they had experienced during their mission. Hayes sat in silence during the flight back to base, his sniper rifle across his knees as he stared through the helicopter's window at the Afghan landscape passing below. 20 years of military service had exposed him to extraordinary situations and inexplicable events, but nothing in his experience provided a framework for understanding what had occurred at the compound. The precision shots he had witnessed exceeded human capabilities, yet no technological explanation seemed adequate. Rodriguez completed his medical documentation while monitoring Thompson's condition during transport. His training emphasized objective observation and accurate reporting, but the events at the compound challenged his ability to describe what he had witnessed in clinical terms. Equipment malfunctions, environmental factors, and battlefield confusion might explain individual incidents, but not the systematic pattern of impossible occurrences. Martinez attempted to compile his communications logs for the post-mission debriefing, but found himself struggling to reconcile official procedures with extraordinary circumstances. His equipment had detected no friendly forces in the area, no air support operations, and no artillery activities that could account for the devastating effects on enemy positions. Standard reporting formats seemed inadequate for describing events that defied conventional understanding. Upon reaching their base of operations, Morrison's team underwent immediate debriefing procedures designed to capture critical intelligence, while events remained fresh in their memories. Colonel Sarah Mitchell, the base commander, personally conducted their interrogation, recognizing that their mission had achieved results far exceeding initial expectations. However, her experience told her that exceptional success often concealed complications that required careful analysis. Morrison described their mission with professional precision, emphasizing tactical decisions, enemy capabilities, and the successful capture of their target. However, he found himself reluctant to discuss certain aspects of their experience, particularly the dramatic shift in enemy effectiveness that had enabled their success. Military professionals learned to focus on results rather than unexplainable circumstances. Colonel Mitchell listened to Morrison's report with growing interest, noting discrepancies between expected outcomes and actual results. Intelligence estimates had suggested that their mission would face overwhelming opposition, yet Morrison's team had achieved complete success with minimal casualties. Such unexpected results often indicated the presence of variables that had not been included in operational planning. The interrogation of Qasim began immediately upon their return, with intelligence specialists employing psychological pressure techniques designed to extract maximum information in minimum time. The Taliban commander proved surprisingly cooperative, perhaps recognizing that a situation was hopeless and that cooperation might improve his treatment. His revelations would prove more significant than anyone anticipated. Qasim described extensive Taliban operations throughout the region, including detailed information about planned attacks on coalition forces and civilian targets. However, his most disturbing revelations concerned intelligence leaks within coalition forces, suggesting that enemy commanders had advanced knowledge of friendly operations. Morrison's mission had been discussed in Taliban planning sessions before his team had even departed their base. The implications of Qasim's information created immediate security concerns that reached the highest levels of coalition command. If Taliban forces possessed advanced knowledge of SEAL operations, then multiple ongoing missions might be compromised. Colonel Mitchell initiated immediate communication protocols to alert other units while beginning investigations to identify the sources of intelligence leaks. Meanwhile, Elena completed her exfiltration from the operational area using routes and methods that left no trace of her presence. Her training had emphasized operational security above all other considerations, and she followed procedures designed to ensure that her intervention would never be detected or analyzed. By dawn, even the most sophisticated intelligence capabilities would find no evidence that she had ever been in the region. Elena's post-mission analysis required careful documentation of events while maintaining absolute secrecy regarding her role in their outcome. Her reports would be classified at levels that ensure they would never be seen by personnel involved in Morrison's operation, creating separate historical records that would never be reconciled. The truth would be fragmented across multiple classification levels. Elena's handler, a civilian intelligence officer known only as Control, received her initial report through secure communication channels that bypassed all conventional military systems. Control operated from a location that changed frequently, managing assets like Elena through methods that ensured operational security while maintaining plausible deniability for all government agencies. Control's analysis of Elena's report revealed the unprecedented nature of her intervention and the complications created by her support for Morrison's team. Never before had assets from Elena's program provided direct assistance to conventional military operations, and the precedent created significant policy implications that required careful consideration by senior leadership. The captured intelligence materials from Qasim's compound underwent immediate analysis by specialist teams equipped with advanced translation and cryptographic capabilities. These documents revealed extensive Taliban planning for attacks throughout Afghanistan, but also contained references to intelligence sources within coalition forces that suggested systematic penetration of secure operations. Morrison found himself struggling with memories that seemed to contradict his understanding of tactical realities. His experience and training provided no framework for explaining the systematic elimination of enemy forces by precision shots from impossible positions. However, military discipline emphasized focusing on successful mission completion rather than questioning unexplainable circumstances. Colonel Mitchell's investigation into potential intelligence leaks expanded rapidly as additional evidence emerged from the captured documents. The security implications affected multiple units throughout the region, requiring coordination with intelligence agencies and military police organizations. Her investigation would eventually reveal corruption and infiltration at levels that shocked even experienced intelligence professionals. Elena received new mission orders through secure channels, directing her to eliminate specific targets identified through the intelligence captured during Morrison's operation. Her success in supporting the SEAL mission had demonstrated capabilities that senior leadership wanted to exploit for additional operations. However, these new missions would require even greater secrecy and operational security. Hayes submitted his post-mission equipment reports with growing unease, noting anomalies in his rifle's performance that suggested external influences on his marksmanship. Professional pride prevented him from acknowledging that his supposed exceptional shooting had been enhanced by unknown factors, but his technical analysis revealed inconsistencies that troubled his understanding of the events. The medical evaluation of Morrison's team revealed stress indicators consistent with exposure to extraordinary circumstances beyond their control. Military psychologists recognized patterns suggesting that these experienced professionals had witnessed events that challenged their understanding of tactical realities. However, their reports attributed these effects to combat stress rather than supernatural experiences. Thompson's recovery proceeded smoothly, but his conversations with medical personnel revealed persistent questions about the source of the precision fire that had eliminated enemy threats throughout their mission. His position during the firefight had provided optimal observation of impossible shots, and his technical knowledge made him certain that conventional explanations were inadequate. Williams completed his explosive ordnance reports with meticulous attention to detail, noting that enemy defensive positions had been eliminated by precision fire rather than explosive devices. His expertise in demolitions allowed him to recognize the difference between explosive damage and gunshot wounds, leading to conclusions that raised additional questions about the source of their tactical support. Kumar's security analysis of their mission route revealed no evidence of other friendly forces in the area, confirming that their support had come from sources unknown to conventional intelligence channels. His background in communications intelligence enabled him to recognize that their rescue had involved capabilities that operated outside all known military systems. Peterson's communications logs provided detailed documentation of their mission timeline, including precise records of when enemy resistance had suddenly decreased and tactical conditions had shifted in their favor. His technical analysis suggested coordination between multiple unknown elements, but provided no explanation for how such coordination had been achieved. Rodriguez's medical assessment of enemy casualties encountered during their advance through the compound revealed wound patterns consistent with extremely long-range precision shots. His forensic training enabled him to recognize that these eliminations had been accomplished by marksmanship capabilities that exceeded conventional understanding. Colonel Mitchell's preliminary investigation report identified multiple security vulnerabilities that had enabled Taliban forces to gain advanced knowledge of coalition operations. However, her analysis also revealed that Morrison's mission had succeeded despite these security breaches, suggesting the intervention of unknown protective factors. Elena's continued operations in the region would eliminate 17 high-value targets over the following weeks, using intelligence gathered from Qasim's compound to identify and neutralize threats throughout Afghanistan. Her success rate approached 100%, but her existence remained unknown to the conventional forces she protected through her invisible interventions. Morrison's team returned to active duty with enhanced security clearances and assignments to operations requiring exceptional discretion. Their official records showed distinguished service and successful completion of critical missions, but contained no mention of the extraordinary circumstances that had enabled their success. The truth remained fragmented across multiple classification levels, ensuring that the complete story would never be assembled by any single individual or organization. Elena's intervention had saved 8 American lives while preserving the secrecy that enabled her continued operations throughout the region. Hashtag the price of silence. 6 months after their mission at the compound, Morrison received orders transferring him to a classified assignment that would take him away from active field operations. The new position carried significant prestige and advancement opportunities, but required absolute discretion regarding all previous operations. Morrison understood that his extraordinary success had earned recognition at the highest levels, while also marking him for assignments that demanded complete secrecy. Hayes found himself assigned to an elite training facility where his exceptional marksmanship skills would be used to develop new sniper techniques for special operations forces. His official records credited him with impossible shots during the compound mission, establishing his reputation as one of the finest marksmen in military service. However, Hayes privately struggled with accepting praise for achievements that he knew exceeded his actual capabilities. The investigation into intelligence leaks revealed systematic penetration of coalition security systems by Taliban operatives working within trusted positions. Colonel Mitchell's findings led to the arrest of 12 individuals across multiple agencies, their betrayal having endangered countless lives and operations. The security breaches have been far more extensive than anyone had initially suspected, affecting operations throughout the region. Elena continued her invisible war against Taliban leadership, using intelligence gathered from Qasim's compound to eliminate threats before they could materialize into attacks on coalition forces. Her success rate remained unprecedented, but the psychological toll of complete isolation was beginning to affect her performance in ways that concerned her handlers. Extended deployment in hostile territory while maintaining absolute secrecy created stresses that few human beings could endure indefinitely. Control analyzed Elena's psychological evaluations with growing concern, recognizing that assets like Elena required careful management to prevent breakdown or compromised operations. The program that had created her was experimental, and long-term effects remained unknown. Elena's intervention during Morrison's mission had demonstrated capabilities that exceeded all expectations, but also revealed vulnerabilities that required immediate attention. Thompson recovered completely from his shoulder wound and returned to active duty with Morrison's team, though he found himself struggling with memories that seemed to contradict his understanding of the events at the compound. His technical knowledge convinced him that their rescue had involved impossible circumstances, but military discipline prevented him from pursuing unauthorized investigations into classified operations. Rodriguez completed advanced medical training that qualified him for assignment to special operations units conducting the most sensitive missions. His experience at the compound had demonstrated exceptional performance under extraordinary circumstances, marking him for assignments that required both medical expertise and absolute discretion. However, his scientific training created persistent questions about events that defied logical explanation. Martinez received promotion and assignment to communications intelligence operations that required extensive security clearance and psychological evaluation. His performance during the compound mission had shown exceptional adaptability and professional calm under circumstances that challenged conventional understanding. His new position would expose him to classified information that might eventually provide answers to questions that continue to trouble him. Williams transferred to advanced explosive ordnance operations. His expertise expanded through training programs that prepared him for missions requiring innovative approaches to demolitions and breaching operations. His experience at the compound had revealed capabilities that impressed his superiors, though Williams continued to question the source of the precision fire that had eliminated enemy positions throughout their mission. Kumar joined a classified intelligence unit that analyzed communication patterns and security vulnerabilities throughout the Middle East. His background in communications technology and his demonstrated performance under pressure qualified him for work that required exceptional attention to detail and complete discretion. His new assignment would eventually expose him to information that explained some of the mysteries surrounding their mission. Peterson received advanced training in classified communication systems and assignment to operations that required coordination between multiple agencies and military units. His experience during the compound mission had demonstrated exceptional technical skills and professional judgment, qualifying him for work that demanded absolute reliability and security consciousness. Hayes underwent extensive psychological evaluation as part of his new assignment, military psychologists noting persistent questions about his performance during the compound mission that suggested exposure to extraordinary circumstances. However, their analysis attributed his concerns to the natural difficulty that exceptional performers experienced in accepting praise for achievements that seemed to exceed normal human capabilities. The intelligence gathered from Qasim's compound continued to provide operational advantages throughout Afghanistan, enabling coalition forces to anticipate and prevent dozens of planned attacks. However, the most valuable information concerned the existence of additional security breaches that threatened ongoing operations. Qasim's cooperation had revealed intelligence networks that extended far beyond initial estimates. Elena's psychological evaluation revealed stress patterns consistent with extended isolation and operational pressure, but also demonstrated exceptional resilience and adaptability that marked her for continued field operations. Control authorized extended leave and specialized counseling designed to address the unique psychological challenges faced by assets operating under such extreme secrecy. During her recovery period, Elena underwent debriefing sessions with specialists trained to extract operational intelligence while providing psychological support. These sessions revealed the extent of her intervention during Morrison's mission, providing control with detailed analysis of capabilities that exceeded all previous assessments. Elena's performance had redefined the possibilities for covert operations. Morrison's new assignment brought him into contact with classified programs that operated at the highest levels of military intelligence, expanding his understanding of capabilities that existed beyond conventional military operations. However, strict compartmentalization ensured that he never learned the complete truth about his own rescue, protecting both Elena's identity and the existence of her program. The official after-action report from Morrison's mission credited exceptional leadership, tactical innovation, and superior marksmanship for the successful completion of their objectives despite overwhelming enemy opposition. The report became a case study used in advanced military training programs, teaching principles of adaptability and determination under impossible circumstances. Elena returned to active operations with enhanced equipment and expanded mission parameters that reflected her demonstrated capabilities. Her success during Morrison's mission had established precedents that enabled more aggressive operations against high-value targets throughout the region. However, strict protocols ensured that her future interventions would remain completely invisible to friendly forces. Control implemented new operational procedures based on lessons learned from Elena's intervention, creating frameworks that would enable similar support for friendly forces while maintaining absolute operational security. These procedures would eventually be used to save hundreds of lives throughout various theaters of operation, though the existence of such capabilities would remain completely classified. Hayes established new training protocols that incorporated lessons learned from his experience at the compound, teaching advanced marksmanship techniques to special operations snipers. However, his instruction focused on conventional capabilities and tactical principles, never revealing his suspicions about the extraordinary circumstances that had enabled his supposed exceptional performance. Morrison's leadership of subsequent missions demonstrated exceptional tactical awareness and decision-making that reflected his experience during the compound operation. His ability to adapt to unexpected circumstances and exploit tactical opportunities became legendary within the special operations community, though the source of these capabilities remained mysterious even to Morrison himself. The classified materials captured during the compound mission continued to provide intelligence advantages for years, enabling operations that prevented countless casualties and disrupted enemy operations throughout the region. However, the most significant impact came from security improvements that closed intelligence leaks and protected future operations from enemy penetration. Elena's subsequent operations eliminated over 50 high-value targets during the following year, her success rate approaching perfection while maintaining complete invisibility to both enemy forces and friendly units. Her interventions saved hundreds of lives and prevented dozens of attacks, though her existence remained known only to a handful of individuals at the highest levels of government. Thompson, Rodriguez, Martinez, Williams, Kumar, and Peterson continued their military careers with distinction, their experience at the compound having established them as exceptional performers capable of succeeding under the most challenging circumstances. However, none would ever learn the complete truth about their rescue or the invisible guardian who had made their survival possible. Morrison eventually rose to command positions that brought him into contact with the highest levels of military leadership, his reputation for tactical excellence opening doors to assignments that shaped policy and strategy throughout the military. However, strict compartmentalization ensured that he never gained access to information that would explain the mysterious circumstances of his most famous mission. Elena's program expanded to include additional assets operating in theaters throughout the world, her success having demonstrated the viability of capabilities that had previously existed only in theoretical planning. These invisible guardians would protect American forces and interests while remaining completely unknown to those they saved. The compound where Morrison's team had fought their desperate battle was eventually destroyed by coalition airstrikes, eliminating all physical evidence of the events that had occurred there. Official records attributed the successful mission to exceptional military skill and determination, preserving the secrecy that protected both Elena's identity and the existence of capabilities that operated beyond conventional understanding. Years later, when members of Morrison's team gathered for reunions and retirement ceremonies, they would share stories about their experiences and speculate about the extraordinary circumstances that had enabled their survival. However, none would ever learn that their desperate call for help had been answered by a guardian angel whose very existence remained one of the most closely guarded secrets in modern warfare. The truth remained fragmented across multiple classification levels, ensuring that the complete story would never be assembled except in the minds of a very few individuals who carried the weight of secrets that could never be shared. Elena's intervention had saved 8 American lives while establishing precedents that would protect countless others through the invisible presence of guardians who existed only in shadows.